My son changed the locks on my own house while I was gone for 30 minutes. I'm 69 years old and I've been sleeping in my car for 3 nights because the boy I raised decided I was disposable. The story I'm about to tell you has 7 twists that'll make your blood boil. And by the end, you'll understand why a billionaire's dying secret completely destroyed the son who betrayed me. In chess, sometimes you have to sacrifice a pawn to see who your real enemies are. I just discovered I was never the pawn at all. If you've ever worried about what happens when you get old and vulnerable, hit subscribe now. Drop a comment with your state, because what happened to me is happening to families across America, and nobody sees it coming. The worst part? It gets so much worse before it gets better. It started on a Tuesday afternoon at 4:30 p.m. when I came home from CVS with Linda's old heart medication. 3 years too late. But habits die hard. The key didn't work. The key... I stood there on the porch of 1247 Maple Street, the house I built with my own hands 42 years ago, jiggling that brass key like maybe the lock was just being stubborn. Tyler opened the door. My son, 34 years old, wearing that expensive polo shirt Madison always buys him. Behind him stood Officer Martinez, badge number 4821, looking uncomfortable as hell. "Dad," Tyler said, not meeting my eyes, "you can't live here anymore." "What do you mean I can't live here? I built this place board by board." "It's not healthy. For the kids. Madison's scared." I looked past him into my own living room. Madison was holding 4-year-old Emma on her hip, whispering something in her ear. 6-year-old Jake peeked around the corner, confused. These were my grandchildren. I'd spent Saturday mornings teaching Jake how to use a level, letting Emma help me sand wood in the garage. "Tyler, we can talk about this if there's a problem." "The locksmith comes at 5, he said. "Officer Martinez is here to make sure this stays peaceful." Officer Martinez stepped forward. "Sir, I'm sorry, but you need to gather some essentials. This is a civil matter, but you can't force entry into the residence." "Force entry? Into my own house?" "Sir, the deed shows Tyler Wilson as primary owner." My heart stopped. "That's impossible. I never signed anything." Tyler's jaw tightened. "Dad, you signed the papers 6 months ago. Remember? When you were having trouble with the bank statements, I was helping you organize your finances. I did remember him helping with paperwork. Lots of paperwork. I'd trusted him because that's what fathers do. That's what I'd always done. The important thing," Tyler continued, "is that you get the help you need. There are facilities. Good places." Facilities? The word tasted like poison. "Son, your mother and I raised you in this house. I changed your diapers in that upstairs bathroom. I taught you to ride a bike in that driveway. Dad, please don't make this harder than it needs to be." I packed one suitcase. 45 years of marriage, 34 years of fatherhood, fitting into one piece of luggage. As I walked to my Buick LeSabre, Tyler called out, "Dad, I'll call you in a few days, once you're settled." I drove to the Walmart parking lot because I couldn't think of anywhere else to go. At 3:17 a.m., my phone rang. The Walmart parking lot isn't designed for living. I discovered that Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and Thursday night, the security lights never turn off. The shopping cart collectors start their rounds at 5 a.m., metal clanging against metal. The teenagers show up around midnight, engines revving, music pounding. But none of that compared to the looks. Wednesday morning, I walked into McDonald's to use the bathroom and buy a coffee. $2.39 for a small. I had exactly $12.43 in my wallet, the cash I'd grabbed before leaving the house, before Tyler's locksmith came. The teenage cashier looked at me like I was something that had crawled out of a storm drain. Stubble on my face, same clothes 2 days running, smelling like car upholstery and failure. "You okay, sir?" she asked, and I heard pity in her voice. Pity from a kid who probably couldn't balance a checkbook. "I'm fine, thank you." But I wasn't fine. Nothing about sleeping in a 2015 Buick LeSabre is fine when you're 69 years old and your spine hasn't been the same since that construction accident in '98. Nothing about brushing your teeth in a McDonald's bathroom is fine when you spent 45 years brushing them in the master bathroom you tiled yourself. Thursday afternoon, I called Tyler. "Dad, how are you doing?" "Tyler, I need to come home. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it." Dad, you know it's not that simple. Madison found those bruises on Emma's arm, and Jake's been having nightmares. What bruises? I never touched those kids except to hug them. I know you don't mean to be rough, but your grip is stronger than you think. And you've been forgetting things. The stove left on. The front door unlocked. None of that was true. I'd been sharp as a tack since Linda died. Maybe sharper because I had to be. But Tyler's voice had that patient tone people use with children and old folks they've written off. There's a nice place in Clearwater, Sunny Ridge Assisted Living. They have activities, people your age. Tyler, I'm not ready for... Dad, I've already put down a deposit. The line went quiet. I sat in my car looking at families walking into the store. Normal families, mothers with strollers, fathers carrying children on their shoulders, grandparents holding little hands. How much? I asked. How much what? How much did you put down at this place? 4,000. But Dad, don't worry about the money. That's what families do. We take care of each other. $4,000. I knew Tyler didn't have $4,000. He'd been between jobs for 8 months, living off Madison's occasional real estate commissions and whatever help I could provide. So where did $4,000 come from? Tyler, where did you get the money? Dad, I told you not to worry about it. Son, I'm asking you a direct question. Dad, you're getting worked up. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The confusion, the paranoia. I'm not confused and I'm not paranoid. I'm asking my son where he got $4,000. I have to go. Emma needs her bath. The line went dead. That night, I tried calling Madison, straight to voicemail. I tried calling my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, who'd known our family for 20 years. She didn't pick up either. I was radioactive. Whatever Tyler and Madison had told people, it was enough to make a 69-year-old man disappear from his own life. Friday morning, I was sitting in my car trying to figure out whether the senior center served breakfast when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. What was the point? But something made me pick up. Is this Charles Wilson? Yes. Mr. Wilson, my name is Arnold Sterling. I know this might sound strange, but I need to see you. Today, if possible. Who is this? Someone who knows who you are, Mr. Wilson, and more importantly, someone who knows what's being done to you. My blood went cold. What do you mean? Mr. Wilson, you're not the first father this has happened to. And if you're willing to listen, you might not be the last one it destroys. I gripped the phone tighter. How do you know what's happening to me? Because 30 years ago, I did something unforgivable to someone I loved. And now I'm trying to make sure it doesn't happen to you. The voice on the other end said something that made me freeze completely. Mr. Wilson, do you know what your middle name is? Strange question from a stranger, but I answered. Charles Sterling Wilson. Sterling was my mother's maiden name. Silence on the other end. Then, Mr. Wilson, I'm sending a car to pick you up. Please don't hang up. Wait, how do you know my middle name? Because Sterling is my last name, and I know this sounds impossible, but I believe I'm your father. The McDonald's coffee cup slipped from my hand, spilling across the dashboard. 40 years old, that coffee stain would outlive both of us. My father died when I was 5. Car accident. Your mother told you that to protect you. From me. Because I was 24 years old and more interested in building a business empire than raising a son. Because I walked away when she needed me most. This is impossible. Charles, do you have a scar on your left shoulder, shaped like a crescent moon? I did. From falling off my tricycle when I was 3. My mother always said I was lucky it didn't need stitches. You were riding that red tricycle down Highland Avenue. Your mother was hanging laundry, and you wanted to show off. You hit the curb and went flying into the Hendersons' rose bushes. Only 3 people could have known that detail. My mother, who died in 2018. Mrs. Henderson next door, who'd never spoken to a stranger about family business. And the person who pulled me out of those thorns and carried me inside, crying and bleeding. The person my mother said was dead. You carried me inside, I whispered. And your mother looked at me like I was a monster. Because I was a monster, Charles. I left the next week, told myself you'd be better off without me. Spent 40 years building Sterling Enterprises, convincing myself that success could erase what I'd done. Sterling Enterprises. I'd seen their signs around town. Commercial real estate, development projects, big money. Why now? Why are you calling me now?
Because I'm 74 years old and I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer. 6 months, maybe 8. And because I've been watching you, Charles. For the last 3 years, ever since Linda died. Watching me? I hired investigators. I know about the house Tyler built his credit on. I know about the money he's been moving around. I know about the papers he had you sign 6 months ago. My hands were shaking. What papers? Papers that made him primary owner of your house? Papers that gave him power of attorney over your finances? Papers that let him access your retirement account? That's impossible. I would never. Charles, do you remember signing a lot of documents when Tyler was helping you organize your finances? I did remember. Stack after stack of papers.
Tyler explaining each one patiently, pointing to signature lines, saying things like, just standard bank stuff, Dad. And this just makes it easier if something happens to you. He told me it was insurance paperwork, estate planning. Charles, your 401k account at Fidelity shows a withdrawal of $180,000 on February 28th. Your signature on the withdrawal form. But I had it analyzed. Analyzed? It's forged. Skillfully forged, but forged, and that's not all. My vision blurred. The Walmart parking lot tilted sideways. What else? The house is in foreclosure. Wells Fargo has a lien on the property for $320,000. Money Tyler borrowed against the equity and never told you about. But I paid off that house 15 years ago. You did. Tyler took out a new mortgage in March, using forged documents that showed you as a co-signer. The money's gone, Charles. And in 30 days, the bank takes the house. I couldn't breathe.
Why are you telling me this? Because I failed you once and I won't fail you again. And because there's something else you need to know about your son, something that's going to hurt. The phone line crackled with static. Or maybe it was my hands shaking. Mr. Wilson, are you still there? I'm here. Tyler has been in contact with me for 6 months. He knows who I am. He knows I'm your father. The words hit like a freight train, but I heard something else behind them. Charles, I need you to listen very carefully. Can you drive? I think so. There's a lawyer named Rebecca Martinez at 1247 West Bay Avenue. She specializes in elder abuse cases. I've already called her about your situation. Elder abuse? Tyler's my son. Charles, family members commit 90% of elder financial abuse. Blood doesn't make someone trustworthy. Sometimes it makes them worse, because they know you'll never suspect them.
I sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes after Arnold hung up, staring at the Walmart sign. Everything I thought I knew about my life was disintegrating. My dead father was alive. My son was a thief. My house was gone. But something else was happening too. For the first time in 3 days, I felt something besides despair. I felt angry. Rebecca Martinez's office was in a strip mall between a dental clinic and a tax preparation service. She was younger than I expected, maybe 45, with the kind of steady eyes that suggested she'd seen worse things than whatever I was about to tell her. Mr. Wilson, Arnold Sterling filled me in on some details, but I need to hear your version. I told her everything. The locksmith, the papers Tyler had me sign, the foreclosure notice Arnold mentioned. She took notes in careful handwriting, occasionally asking for specific dates or amounts. Mr. Wilson, I've seen this pattern before. Adult children who view their aging parents as retirement accounts. They isolate the victim, control information flow, and gradually transfer assets. But Tyler's my son. That makes it worse, not better. You trust him completely, which means you don't verify anything he tells you, and the law makes it easier for family members to gain financial control. She opened a folder and pulled out documents I'd never seen before. Arnold's investigators obtained copies of several filings Tyler made on your behalf, a durable power of attorney dated October 15th, a quitclaim deed transferring the house to his name dated October 22nd, and this. She handed me a medical evaluation form. Tyler had you declared incompetent to manage your own affairs. According to this document, you suffer from progressive cognitive decline and early-stage dementia. The room spun. I don't have dementia. I know. We'll have you evaluated by an independent neurologist to establish your competency. But Tyler used this fake diagnosis to justify taking control of your finances. How is that legal? It's not. It's fraud. Multiple felonies, actually. Forgery, elder abuse, identity theft, and possibly racketeering if we can prove a pattern. What about my grandchildren? Tyler said I hurt Emma.
Rebecca's expression darkened. "Show me your hands." I held them out, scarred from 40 years of carpentry, but steady. "Mr. Wilson, you're a craftsman. Your hands are trained for precision. Someone with your motor control doesn't accidentally bruise a child. Then how? Makeup, or deliberate injury after the fact. I've seen both. The important thing is that we document your competency and gather evidence of Tyler's fraud before he can transfer more assets." "What kind of evidence?" "Bank records, medical evaluations, handwriting analysis. Arnold's investigators have already started the process, but we need to move fast."
Why fast? Because Tyler doesn't know you've discovered his scheme yet. Right now, he thinks you're a broken old man sleeping in his car, isolated and ashamed. That gives us an advantage. What kind of advantage? The element of surprise. Tyler's gotten comfortable. Comfortable people make mistakes. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number. "Arnold, he's here?" "Yes, he understands. How long do we have?" She hung up and looked at me seriously. "Mr. Wilson, Arnold wants to meet you in person. Tonight. But there's something else you need to know first." "What?" "Tyler has been corresponding with Arnold for 6 months. He reached out first, claiming to represent you. Said you were interested in reconnecting with your long-lost father." My stomach dropped. "Tyler knows Arnold is my father? Not only does he know he's been asking for money, large amounts of money. Arnold has copies of every email, every text message." "How much money?" "Tyler requested $2 million as a family reconciliation gift. When Arnold refused, Tyler threatened to make sure you never learned about Arnold's existence." "Threatened how?" "Tyler said you were old and confused, and he could make sure you believed anything he told you, including that Arnold was a scammer trying to exploit your grief over Linda." The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Tyler hadn't just stolen my money and my house, he'd stolen my father. "There's more," Rebecca continued. "Arnold agreed to meet with Tyler next week. Tyler thinks he's coming to collect the money he demanded." "But he's not?" "No, Mr. Wilson, Arnold's coming to watch Tyler lie to your face, and we're going to record every word." Rebecca handed me a business card and a cell phone. "This phone has Arnold's direct number programmed in. Call him tonight at 9 p.m. He's going to tell you things that will change how you see everything." I looked at the phone, then at Rebecca. "What if I can't handle any more changes?" "Mr. Wilson, you've been handling changes for 3 days. The question is, do you want to keep being a victim, or do you want to fight back?" I thought about Tyler changing the locks, about sleeping in my car, about the pity in that teenager's eyes at McDonald's. "I want to fight back." Rebecca smiled. "Good, because Arnold's about to teach you how to win." But there was something in her eyes that warned me the worst was yet to come. At 9 p.m. exactly, I called Arnold from the parking lot of Rebecca's office. He answered on the first ring. "Charles?" "Yes. I'm going to say something, and I need you to not hang up. Can you promise me that?" "I promise. Son, I've been looking for you for 30 years. 30 years. While I was raising Tyler alone after his mother left, while I was working double shifts to pay for his college, while I was building my life one careful decision at a time, my father had been looking for me. Why didn't you find me sooner?" "I tried. Your mother moved you 3 times before you turned 10. Changed her name, changed yours. By the time I had the resources to hire real investigators, you'd become Charles Wilson instead of Charles Sterling. It wasn't until Linda's obituary appeared in the newspaper that I found you again. You've been watching me for 3 years?" "Not watching, protecting. I hired a security company to keep an eye on you after Linda died. I was worried you might—" He paused. "I was worried you might hurt yourself. Grief does things to people. But you never contacted me. I tried to work up the courage. A dozen times I picked up the phone. A dozen times I hung up. What do you say to a son you abandoned? Sorry I ruined your childhood. How's your life? There's no words for what I did to you." I sat in my car, watching traffic lights change colors, thinking about all the father-son moments that never happened, teaching me to drive, helping me with homework, walking me down the aisle at my wedding. "Arnold, Tyler contacted you 6 months ago." "Yes." "What did he tell you? That you'd been asking about me? That Linda's death had made you curious about your family history? That you wanted to meet but were too proud to reach out yourself? And you believed him?" "I wanted to believe him. Charles, you have to understand. I'd been waiting 30 years for any sign that you might forgive me. When your son called, It felt like a miracle. What did he want? Money initially. He said you were having financial troubles. Medical bills from Linda's cancer treatment, house repairs you couldn't afford. He asked for $50,000. Did you give it to him?
I gave him $25,000, wired it to a Swiss bank account he provided. He said you preferred offshore banking for privacy reasons. $25,000. Enough to cover Tyler's deposit at Sunny Ridge Assisted Living and leave plenty for whatever else he was planning. Arnold, there were never any medical bills. Linda had excellent insurance, and I haven't needed house repairs in 5 years. I know that now. Rebecca's investigators pulled your financial records. You've been debt-free since 2018. When did you realize Tyler was lying? When he asked for more money. $2 million, Charles. He said you wanted to buy a vacation home in Florida, somewhere to spend your final years. When I asked to speak with you directly, he said you were too proud to take charity from a father you'd never known. $2 million. I told him no. That's when he got threatening. How threatening? He said I'd lost my chance.
That you were old and easily confused, and he could make sure you believed I was dead and buried. He said he was your next of kin and your power of attorney, and if I ever contacted you, he'd have me arrested for elder abuse. The irony was stunning. Tyler using elder abuse laws to commit elder abuse. Arnold, there's something else. Rebecca says Tyler had me declared incompetent. I know. My investigators found the paperwork. It's completely fabricated, Charles. The doctor who supposedly evaluated you retired in 2019 and lives in Oregon now. The notary who witnessed your signature was paid $500 to falsify the documents. How do you know all this? Because when someone threatens my son, I respond accordingly. I've been building a case against Tyler for 3 months. Bank fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, mail fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy. Conspiracy. Madison's involved. She helped Tyler forge your signature on the house documents. She's the one who coached your grandchildren to be afraid of you, and she's the one who took the photographs. What photographs? The ones showing bruises on Emma's arm. Makeup, Charles. Applied and photographed to support a restraining order application. I felt sick. They used my grandchildren as props. Rebecca has the metadata from Madison's phone. The photos were taken at different times with different lighting, suggesting they were staged. And there's a video file Madison deleted, showing her applying makeup to Emma's arm while telling her to look sad for mommy. How did you get Madison's phone records? I didn't. Tyler did. He uploaded everything to a cloud storage account he thought was private. Unfortunately for him, my cybersecurity team is very good at their jobs. What else is in those files? Text messages between Tyler and Madison discussing their timeline. Bank routing numbers for accounts you don't know about. And most importantly, communications between Tyler and several other elderly victims. Other victims? Tyler and Madison have been running this scam for 2 years. They target recently widowed men, gain their trust through family connections or church relationships, then systematically drain their assets. You're victim number 7, Charles. 7. 7 other fathers had lost their homes, their dignity, their families to my son's greed. Where are they now, the other victims? 3 are in nursing homes they can't afford. 2 died homeless. 1 committed suicide. The weight of that information settled on me like a tombstone. Tyler wasn't just stealing from me. He was a serial killer whose weapon was betrayal. Arnold, what happens now? Now we give Tyler enough rope to hang himself. Tomorrow morning, he's supposed to meet with me to discuss the $2 million payment. He thinks he's coming to collect his payday, but he's not. No, son. Tomorrow morning, Tyler's going to confess to federal crimes while FBI agents record every word. I could hear the steel in Arnold's voice, the kind of strength that builds business empires and destroys enemies. Are you ready to watch your son destroy himself, Charles? I thought about Emma with makeup bruises, about Jake having nightmares about his grandfather, about 6 other families torn apart by Tyler's greed. I'm ready. But I wasn't ready for what Tyler would say when he realized the trap was closing. The FBI operation was set up at Sterling Enterprises' downtown office. Agent Jennifer Walsh, Rebecca Martinez, and Arnold Sterling sat in a conference room equipped with recording devices that could capture conversations 3 floors away. I sat in an adjoining room, watching through one-way glass as my son walked into what he believed was his payday meeting. Tyler arrived 15 minutes early, wearing his best suit and carrying a leather briefcase Madison must have bought him for the occasion. He looked confident, entitled, like a man who'd never faced consequences for anything. Arnold had coached me on what to expect, but seeing Tyler in person still felt like a knife to the chest. This was the boy I'd raised alone after his mother abandoned us. The kid I'd taught to ride a bike, to throw a baseball, to change a tire. The young man I'd worked double shifts to put through college. "Mr. Sterling," Tyler said, extending his hand with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Thank you for meeting with me." "Tyler, please sit down. We have a lot to discuss." "Yes, sir. About my father's situation. I know he's proud, but he really needs this help." Arnold leaned back in his chair, studying Tyler like a scientist examining a particularly interesting parasite. "Tell me about Charles's medical condition. It's heartbreaking, really." "The dementia started slowly after my mother died, forgetting names, losing track of conversations, but it's gotten worse. He left the stove on twice last week. Yesterday I found him trying to drive to a job site that closed 15 years ago. Every word was a lie delivered with Academy Award conviction. Tyler had inherited my voice, my gestures, my mannerisms, but somewhere along the way, he'd learned to weaponize them. That must be difficult for your family. Madison's been incredible, really patient with Dad's condition, but the children are starting to notice. Emma asked me why Grandpa smells funny now. Jake won't sit on his lap anymore. Why not? Dad doesn't realize how strong his grip is. He grabbed Jake's wrist last weekend and left bruises. We had to take pictures for the pediatrician. Arnold's expression never changed, but I saw his hand clench slightly. "May I see the photos?" Tyler pulled out his phone and scrolled through images. Even through the one-way glass, I could see they were the same photos Rebecca had shown me. Emma, with makeup bruises on her arm. "Terrible," Arnold murmured. "No wonder you're concerned. That's why we need to get him into professional care quickly, before someone gets seriously hurt." "And the $2 million I'm providing will cover his care?" "Well, good facilities are expensive. Sunny Ridge is $4,000 a month, but that's just the basic package. For someone with Dad's needs, we're looking at $8,000 to $10,000 monthly. Over 20 years, that's easily $2 million. 20 years? Tyler, your father is 69 years old. He's in great physical shape. Could live into his 90s easily." Arnold nodded slowly. "And you'll manage this money on his behalf?" "I have power of attorney. It's all legal and proper. Dad signed the papers himself when he was having a good day." "Show me." Tyler opened his briefcase and pulled out documents. Power of attorney forms, medical evaluations, financial statements. The FBI's handwriting expert had already confirmed they were forgeries, but Tyler presented them like sacred texts. "Everything's in order," Tyler said. "All we need is your transfer authorization." Arnold picked up the power of attorney document and studied it carefully. "Tyler, this signature doesn't look quite right to me." "What do you mean?" "Your father's signature on this document. It's different from his signature on other papers I have." Tyler's confidence flickered for just a moment. "Dad's handwriting has changed since the dementia started. It's actually one of the early signs we noticed." "I see. And this medical evaluation was performed by Dr. Harrison?" "Yes, sir. He's been Dad's doctor for years." "Dr. Harrison, who retired in 2019 and moved to Oregon?" Tyler's face went pale. There might be some confusion about—" "Tyler, there's no confusion. Dr. Harrison never examined your father. This document is a forgery." The room went silent. I watched Tyler's mask slip away, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. "I don't know what you're implying, Mr. Sterling." "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. You forged medical documents to gain illegal control over your father's assets. You forged power of attorney papers to steal his retirement funds. You forged mortgage documents to steal his house." Tyler stood up abruptly. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Sit down, Tyler." Something in Arnold's voice made Tyler obey immediately, the commanding tone of a man who'd built a business empire by knowing exactly when to strike. "Tyler, do you know what RICO stands for?" "No, sir." Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. It's a federal law designed to prosecute criminal enterprises, people who engage in patterns of fraud across state lines. "I don't understand what that has to do with—" It has everything to do with you, Tyler. Because you've been running this scam for 2 years. 7 victims, including your father. Stolen assets totaling $3.2 million. That's not a family dispute, Tyler. That's organized crime. Tyler's hands started shaking. Mr. Sterling, I think you have bad information. FBI agent Walsh has been recording this conversation for the past 20 minutes. She's also been monitoring your communications with Madison, your cloud storage accounts, and your Swiss bank transactions. The color drained completely from Tyler's face. You have the right to remain silent, Agent Walsh said, entering the room with 2 other agents. But honestly, Tyler, you've already said enough to convict yourself. Tyler looked around the room desperately, like a cornered animal. When his eyes found the one-way glass, he seemed to realize I was there. "Dad?" he called out, his voice cracking. "Dad, they're trying to turn you against your own son." I stood up and walked into the conference room. Tyler's face lit up with desperate hope. "Dad, thank God. Tell them this is all a mistake. Tell them we're family." I looked at my son, really looked at him for the first time in months. The expensive clothes Madison had bought him with stolen money. The manicured hands that had forged my signature. The mouth that had lied so smoothly about my grandchildren being afraid of me. "Tyler," I said quietly, "family doesn't destroy each other for money." Agent Walsh moved toward him with handcuffs, but Tyler wasn't done talking. "Dad, you can't let them do this to me." Tyler's voice pitched higher as Agent Walsh approached. "I'm your son. I'm all the family you have left." "Actually," Arnold said, standing up from his chair, "that's not quite true." Tyler stopped struggling against the handcuffs and stared at Arnold with sudden recognition. "Wait, you're not just some billionaire investor, are you?" Arnold smiled without warmth. "Tyler, meet your grandfather, the father your dad never knew he had." The revelation hit Tyler like a physical blow. His knees buckled slightly, and Agent Walsh had to steady him. "That's impossible." "DNA doesn't lie, Tyler. Unlike you." Arnold pulled out a manila folder. "I've been your pen pal for 6 months. Every email, every text message, every phone call. Did you really think I'd hand over $2 million without investigating who I was giving it to?" Tyler's eyes darted between Arnold and me, processing the implications. "You've been setting me up." "No, Tyler, you set yourself up. I just gave you enough rope." Agent Walsh began reading Tyler his rights, but he interrupted her. "Dad, listen to me. This is all Madison's idea. I never wanted to hurt you. She made me do it." "Tyler, please stop talking," I said quietly. "No, Dad, you have to understand. Madison's father went bankrupt 3 years ago. She's used to having money, living a certain lifestyle. When I lost my job, she threatened to leave and take the kids unless I figured out how to support her properly." Agent Walsh exchanged glances with Arnold. Tyler was confessing to additional crimes without realizing it. She's the one who researched elder abuse laws. She's the one who found the other victims. She made me practice forging your signature for weeks. "Tyler, you need to stop talking." She coached the kids, Dad. Made them practice being scared of you. Emma cried for hours after Madison put that makeup on her arm, but Madison said it was necessary. I felt sick hearing about my granddaughter's tears, but Tyler kept going. "And Madison's pregnant again. Did you know that? She didn't want to tell anyone until after we got the money from Arnold. Said we needed to secure our financial future first." Arnold leaned forward. "Tyler, how many other families have you targeted?" "Madison has a list. Widowed men over 65 with paid-off houses and retirement savings. She finds them through church directories, obituaries, real estate records. We've made almost $4 million in 2 years." Agent Walsh was taking notes furiously. Tyler was building the prosecution's case with every word. "Where's the money now?" "Swiss accounts, Cayman Islands, cryptocurrency wallets. Madison handles all that. She's smarter than me about financial stuff." "Tyler," I said, "do you understand what you're saying?" "Dad, I'm trying to explain that this wasn't my idea. I love you. I never wanted to hurt you. You stole my house. Madison said it was the only way to access your equity without waiting for you to die naturally. The phrase, die naturally, hung in the air like poison gas." "What does that mean, Tyler?" Agent Walsh asked. "Nothing. I just meant Madison gets impatient. She wanted the money now, not in 20 years. "Tyler, were you planning to harm your father?" "No, God no. Madison just said... She said maybe we could speed up the process of getting him into care." "How?" "Make him seem more confused than he really is. Maybe get him committed involuntarily. Madison researched the laws. If you can prove someone's dangerous to themselves or others, you can get them institutionalized. Arnold's face had gone stone cold. And then what? Then we'd have full control of his assets. Madison said once someone's declared incompetent, their family can make all financial decisions. So you were planning to have your father institutionalized indefinitely? Just until... Tyler stopped talking, finally realizing he was digging his own grave. Until what, Tyler? Until he died. The words hung in the room like a death sentence. Tyler had just admitted to conspiracy to commit guardianship fraud with the intent to permanently incapacitate his father. Tyler Wilson, Agent Walsh said formally, you're under arrest for conspiracy, elder abuse, identity theft, wire fraud, mail fraud, and violations of the RICO Act. As they led him toward the door, Tyler turned back one last time. Dad, please, don't let them destroy your only son. Think about Emma and Jake. They need their father. I looked at Tyler, really looked at him, and saw a stranger wearing my son's face. Someone who could drug his children's grandfather, steal his life savings, and plan his institutional imprisonment without losing sleep. Tyler, Emma and Jake need a father who doesn't teach them that family exists to be exploited. Dad, please! Tyler, I love you. I will always love you, but I will never trust you again. Agent Walsh paused at the door. Mr. Wilson, Tyler's arraignment is Monday morning. Do you plan to attend? I thought about it for a moment. Did I want to watch my son formally charged with federal crimes? Did I want to see him in an orange jumpsuit, pleading for bail he couldn't afford? No, I said finally. I've seen enough. As the door closed behind Tyler, Arnold put his hand on my shoulder. Charles, there's one more thing. About Madison. What about her? She was arrested an hour ago at your house, Tyler's house, trying to remove evidence from the premises. She had a suitcase full of forged documents and a laptop containing information about 17 other potential victims. 17? Madison's been running this operation longer than Tyler realized. She's been married 3 times, targeted elderly relatives through each husband, then divorced them once the money was gone. What about Emma and Jake? They're with Child Protective Services temporarily. Madison's sister is flying in from California to take custody. I sank into a chair, overwhelmed by the scope of the destruction. My son was a federal criminal. My daughter-in-law was a career predator. My grandchildren were now orphans. Arnold, how do we come back from this? We don't come back from it, Charles. We build something new. He pulled out a legal document I'd never seen before. Charles, I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. I have maybe 6 months left. Arnold, I want to spend those 6 months making amends. To you, to the families Tyler destroyed, to everyone my absence hurt. He handed me the document. This is my will, Charles. I'm leaving everything to you. $340 million. The number was incomprehensible. But there's a condition. What kind of condition? I asked, staring at the legal document that could change everything. Arnold sat down across from me, his expression serious. If you choose to forgive Tyler, if you ever allow him back into your life, every penny goes to charity instead. You're making me choose between my son and your money. No, Charles, I'm protecting you from making the same mistake I made 40 years ago. What mistake? Confusing love with enabling. I thought walking away from you was the loving thing to do because I was a mess. But really, I was just a coward who couldn't face the hard work of becoming a better person. Arnold pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. Tyler, age 6, sitting on my shoulders at a baseball game. You were a good father to that little boy, but that little boy grew up to be a predator who targeted his own family. Love doesn't mean pretending that never happened. Rebecca Martinez leaned forward. Charles, we need to talk about the legal strategy going forward. Tyler's confession gives us everything we need for conviction, but there are other considerations. Like what? Tyler will almost certainly try to plea bargain. He'll claim he was manipulated by Madison, that he's truly remorseful, that prison would destroy his children's lives. The prosecutors will offer him a deal if he testifies against Madison and helps recover assets for the other victims. What kind of deal? Probably 8 to 12 years instead of 25 to life. He'd be out when he's in his mid-40s, still young enough to rebuild his life. And if I object to the deal? Your victim impact statement would carry significant weight. But Charles, you need to understand something. Tyler's not going to prison as the same person who just got arrested. Prison changes people, usually not for the better. Arnold nodded grimly. Rebecca's right. I've seen this before with other cases I've funded. Men like Tyler either come out hardened criminals or broken shells. There's very rarely a middle ground. What are you saying? We're saying that if you're hoping prison will fix Tyler and give you back the son you remember, you're setting yourself up for more heartbreak. I thought about Tyler at 6 years old, learning to tie his shoes. Tyler at 16, proud of his first job at the hardware store. Tyler at 25, holding newborn Emma in the hospital, tears of joy streaming down his face. When had that person become someone who could fake medical documents to institutionalize his own father? Arnold, what happened to Madison's other husbands? The men she targeted before Tyler? 2 are dead. 1 committed suicide after she cleaned out his accounts. The other died of a heart attack during the stress of losing his house. The 3rd husband is in a nursing home in Nevada, completely broke and suffering from alcohol-related dementia. She's killed people. Indirectly, yes. That's why the FBI is charging her under RICO as the head of a criminal enterprise. Madison faces life in prison without parole. And Tyler? Tyler faces the consequences of choosing to follow her lead instead of protecting his father. Rebecca opened another folder. Charles, there's something else you should see. We recovered Tyler's laptop from his house. He's been keeping detailed records of every scam. She handed me printed emails between Tyler and Madison, time-stamped over the past 18 months. Dad still trusts me completely. He'll sign anything I put in front of him. Good. We need to move faster. The Clearwater house closes next month and we need the down payment. What if he gets suspicious? Then we accelerate the incompetency timeline. I already have the fake medical reports ready. Madison? He's my father. He's an ATM machine, Tyler. Nothing more. Stop being sentimental. Reading my son's words felt like swallowing broken glass. But there was more. Emma asked me why we can't visit Grandpa Charlie anymore. Tell her he's sick. Or he's... Kids forget. She cried for 20 minutes. She really loves him. Tyler, focus on the endgame. Once we have Arnold Sterling's money, we can afford to feel guilty. Until then, stay committed to the plan. The emails went on for pages. Tyler expressing doubts, Madison manipulating him back into compliance, both of them treating my love for them like a weapon to be used against me. Rebecca, how long were they planning this? According to the emails, Madison targeted you specifically 18 months ago. She researched your finances, your wife's medical history, your relationship with Tyler. She knew exactly how much you were worth and exactly how to get Tyler to help her steal it. Arnold stood up and walked to the window. Charles, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Ask me. Arnold turned from the window, his face grave. Do you believe Tyler can be redeemed? The question hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. I thought about the emails Rebecca had shown me, about Tyler's calculated lies during the FBI recording, about the makeup bruises on Emma's arm. I don't know. That's not an answer, Charles. Either you believe your son is fundamentally good but made terrible choices, or you believe he's fundamentally damaged, and those choices reflect his true nature. Which is it? Before I could answer, Rebecca's phone buzzed. She checked it and frowned. Charles, Tyler's asking to see you. He's being held at the federal courthouse downtown pending arraignment. He says he needs to tell you something important. What kind of something? He claims he has information about additional victims, people Madison threatened to hurt if Tyler didn't cooperate fully. Arnold's expression darkened. What kind of threats? He won't say unless he can speak to his father privately. I felt exhausted suddenly. 3 hours ago I'd watched my son confess to federal crimes. Now he wanted to manipulate me with more revelations, more secrets, more lies wrapped in family loyalty. Rebecca, if I go see Tyler, what happens? Nothing legally binding. It's just a conversation. But Charles, you should know that everything said in that room will be recorded. Even if he confesses to more crimes? Especially then. Arnold put his hand on my shoulder. Charles, you don't owe Tyler anything, not your presence, not your forgiveness, not your continued victimization. But if he has information that could help other people, then he can give that information to the FBI without traumatizing you further. Rebecca nodded in agreement. Arnold's right. Anything Tyler knows about additional victims, he can tell Agent Walsh directly. You don't need to be his intermediary.
What if he's truly sorry? What if this is his chance to make things right? Charles, Arnold said quietly, how many times in the past 6 months has Tyler apologized for something and then done something worse? I thought about it. Tyler apologizing for the locked door, then forging more documents. Tyler apologizing for the misunderstanding about my competency, then applying for a restraining order. Tyler apologizing for having to put me in assisted living, then stealing my retirement funds. Every apology was followed by escalation. Because apologies were just another manipulation tactic. Tyler doesn't apologize because he feels guilty. He apologizes because it works. Rebecca's phone buzzed again. Charles, Tyler's lawyer is here. She wants to discuss a cooperation agreement. What kind of cooperation? Tyler provides information about Madison's full network in exchange for reduced charges, but there's a catch.
What catch? The cooperation agreement requires a character witness, someone to testify that Tyler was manipulated by Madison and is fundamentally a good person who made bad choices. The pieces clicked into place. Tyler didn't want to see me to apologize or provide information about victims. He wanted to see me to secure my testimony on his behalf. They want me to testify that my son is a good person. Yes. Arnold shook his head in disgust. Even in federal custody, facing life in prison, Tyler's still trying to exploit your love for him. What happens if I refuse? Tyler serves the full sentence, 25 years to life under RICO charges, and if I agree to testify, 8 to 12 years eligible for parole in 6. I stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the city where I'd spent my entire life. Somewhere down there, Tyler sat in a cell, still believing he could manipulate his father into saving him from the consequences of his choices. Somewhere else, Emma and Jake were asking a social worker why Mommy and Daddy couldn't come home, and in 7 other cities, families were dealing with the wreckage Tyler and Madison had left behind. Rebecca, I want to see those emails again. All of them. She handed me the laptop. I scrolled through months of communications between Tyler and Madison, reading how they'd researched my vulnerabilities, planned my isolation, and celebrated each successful theft. One email stood out. Madison, the old man signed the house papers today. Tyler actually cried afterward. Tyler, I feel like shit about this. Madison, Tyler, your father had 69 years to build wealth. We have maybe 10 years before our kids need college funds. Who deserves financial security more, someone at the end of his life or someone at the beginning? Tyler, when you put it that way. Madison, I always put it the right way. That's why you married me. Tyler had felt guilty, but he'd done it anyway. Not once, but repeatedly over 18 months, escalating each time Madison convinced him his needs mattered more than his father's rights. Arnold, you asked if I believe Tyler can be redeemed. Yes, I believe people can change. I believe my son could potentially become a different person, but I don't believe I'm the right person to help him do that. Arnold nodded slowly. Why not? Because I'm his victim, not his therapist, and as long as Tyler believes he can manipulate my love for him, he'll never do the real work of becoming a better person. Rebecca closed the laptop. So what do you want me to tell Tyler's lawyer? I thought about 6-year-old Tyler on my shoulders at that baseball game. Then I thought about 34-year-old Tyler forging my signature to steal my house. Tell them Charles Wilson has no character testimony to offer regarding Tyler Wilson. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know who that person is. Rebecca made a note on her legal pad. Charles, Arnold said, there's one more decision we need to discuss. The inheritance, I said. Yes. $340 million, Charles. Enough to undo everything Tyler and Madison destroyed, and enough to prevent it from happening to other families. But only if I never forgive Tyler. Only if you never allow Tyler back into your life in a position where he can hurt you again. I sat down heavily in Arnold's chair. $340 million. More money than I could comprehend, let alone spend. Money that could restore the houses Tyler had stolen, the retirements he'd looted, the families he'd destroyed. Arnold, what happens if I take the money and Tyler gets out of prison in 12 years? What if he's genuinely changed? What if he wants to make amends with his children? Then he can make amends without access to your resources. Charles, forgiveness doesn't require financial reconciliation. Rebecca leaned forward. Charles, I need to explain something about the legal structure Arnold has created. This isn't just about Tyler. It's about protecting you from any future financial abuse. What do you mean? The inheritance creates an irrevocable trust with very specific conditions. You can use the money to help elder abuse victims, support your grandchildren's education, fund medical research, donate to charities, but you cannot give large sums directly to family members who have committed financial crimes. So even if I wanted to help Tyler financially in the future, you couldn't. The trust prevents it. Arnold designed it that way specifically to protect you from your own generous impulses. Arnold pulled out his phone and showed me a photograph. An elderly man sitting alone in a sparse nursing home room. This is Harold Martinez, Rebecca's father. Madison and her first husband cleaned out his accounts 5 years ago. He's 83 years old, Charles. He worked as a teacher for 40 years, saved every penny he could for retirement. Now he lives on Social Security in a Medicaid facility. He scrolled to another photo. A modest house with a foreclosure notice on the door. This is where James Patterson lived before Madison's second husband convinced him to take out a reverse mortgage and sign over his power of attorney. James died of a heart attack 3 weeks after losing his house. Arnold, why are you showing me this? Because that's what Tyler and Madison did, Charles. They didn't just steal money. They destroyed lives. And if you forgive Tyler, if you give him access to $340 million, what do you think happens next? I knew the answer. Tyler would have more resources than ever to hurt people, and the psychological validation that his father still trusted him despite everything. He'd do it again. He'd do it on a scale that would make the current damage look like practice. Rebecca nodded. Charles, I've seen this pattern before. Family members who commit financial abuse often interpret forgiveness as permission to escalate. They believe that if you forgive them once, you'll forgive them again. What about Emma and Jake? Arnold smiled for the first time that day. The trust includes a separate education fund for them. Full college tuition, graduate school if they choose, living expenses, everything they need to build successful lives. But they can't access the money until they're 25, and Tyler can never control it. They'll be financially secure regardless of what happens to their parents. They'll be more than secure. They'll have opportunities Tyler and Madison never dreamed of. I thought about my grandchildren growing up with the knowledge that their parents had chosen crime over family. They'd need therapy, stability, and the kind of education that would help them understand the difference between love and exploitation. Arnold, if I sign this trust agreement, Tyler goes to prison for 25 years. Tyler goes to prison for 25 years because he committed federal crimes, not because of anything you do or don't do. But my testimony could reduce his sentence. Your testimony could enable him to hurt more people sooner. I stood up and walked to the window again. In chess, sometimes a pawn has to sacrifice itself to see who the real enemy is. But sometimes the pawn discovers it was never a pawn at all. Arnold, I'll sign the trust agreement. 6 months later, I'm living in a modest 2-bedroom house in Clearwater, 3 miles from the beach where Linda and I honeymooned 46 years ago. The Wilson Elder Care Foundation operates out of my dining room, but we're looking at office space downtown. Our 24-hour hotline has handled over 300 calls since we launched. We've prevented 12 families from losing their homes to financial abuse. We've helped prosecute 6 cases of elder fraud, and we've reunited 4 seniors with assets they thought were gone forever. Rebecca Martinez serves as our legal director. Arnold's former investigators now work full-time tracking down stolen assets and building cases against predators who target seniors. We've recovered $2.3 million for victims in the past 6 months. Tyler was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. He never contacted me after our meeting at the courthouse. Madison received life without parole under RICO statutes. She's appealing, but Rebecca says the evidence is overwhelming. Emma and Jake live with Madison's sister Sarah in San Diego. Sarah sends me photos occasionally. Emma learning to ride a bike, Jake building sandcastles on the beach. They're in therapy, working through the trauma of losing both parents to prison. Their education trust fund is managed by an independent financial advisor, completely separate from my oversight. I haven't spoken to Tyler since the day of his arrest, not because I don't love him, but because love isn't the same as enabling. Arnold was right about that. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is let them face the consequences of their choices without rescuing them. Arnold died 3 weeks ago, pancreatic cancer as predicted. His funeral was attended by 200 people whose lives he'd changed through his charitable work. I delivered the eulogy for the father I'd known for less than a year, but who taught me more about boundaries and self-respect than anyone else ever had. The inheritance is still strange to think about. $340 million I can't spend on myself, only on helping others. But that feels right. Tyler and Madison taught me that money without purpose becomes a weapon. Money with purpose becomes a tool for justice. People ask me if I'm angry, if I feel betrayed, if I miss my son. I tell them I've learned the difference between grief and self-pity. Grief is mourning the person Tyler could have been. Self-pity is pretending the person he chose to become never existed. I choose grief over self-pity. I choose purpose over revenge. And I choose to protect other families from learning these lessons the hard way. Because that's what real love looks like. Not enabling, not forgiveness without accountability, but the courage to say no when someone you love is destroying themselves and others. Sometimes the most important word a parent can say is no.